listening to the LNZ Podcast.
Hey, it's Ellen Z, and I've listened to you. I heard what you said on Facebook and Twitter that you would like for me to do some sort of a podcast answering maybe some of your questions. Okay, so I'm prepared to do that. I mean, I don't know how many I can answer. Well, I can answer all of them, but how many weeks it's going to take to actually get to it. First of all, some of you want to know how I ever even got into radio. And that's a really good question, especially since it's such it's a strange field. It's like, yeah, everybody wants to kind of do radio, TV, music, movies, but how do you actually get in there on the other side of the door? Mine was weird. I went to college for music therapy and sociology, but I realized I was actually really super good at sales, media marketing, selling space, print, advertising. It was so much so that I actually became like the advertising director at 24 of a newspaper. And I just would do like the numbers game kind of deal and create relationships with different people and sponsors. And then I started to get into benefits. I remember the very first benefit I did was in New Paltz for a family that had a child that was born with some problems with her heart, and I was able to get John Hall from Orleans to come and perform at P&G's in New Paltz. It was a very exciting deal. And then I started to write music reviews with this particular publication, and it was Ulster Publishing, the Woodstock Times, the Huguenot Herald at the time. It's now, I think, the New Paltz Times. And one of my clients had asked me, it was a restaurant, if I would record their radio spot for them, which was completely, out of the realm of anything I had ever done before. But of course I said yes. So I went up the hill in downtown New Paltz to WRWD, our local country little station, and I recorded a commercial. And I really loved it. It was a lot of fun, totally instant gratification. And after I did that, I was invited back to come and put together a little demo deal. And I did that, and it worked out. I actually got a job at a brand new station in Poughkeepsie called WEXT. Ron Rizzi, who actually owned and ran the entire station, hired me. And like I said, I was like really good at sales, so I kind of oversold myself, like really oversold myself. So he hired me, but I actually had never done the board yet. I'd never done anything like that. So not only did he hire me and did I get the gig, but I was alone by myself and I had weekends and I never ran a board in my life. So I was literally like trying to read, okay, CD1, CD2. I was trying to figure it out while I'm on the air. Anyway, when I came home, I asked a friend how'd I do, and they were like, "We never heard you." And I also gave my my air check, which is you just record yourself during a shift, and then your program director can have a listen and decide what's wrong with you. Anyway, he didn't hear me either, so I realized then where the mic pot was, so I was able to push that up, and I actually stayed there for a good 6 months. I enjoyed it. It was really, really good experience. Great bunch of people. Really a nice welcome into radio. And then I started working weekends at WDST, and Gary Chekhov introduced me to Doug Grunther, who had a morning talk show for an hour. And it was interesting because I didn't know if I'd be able to do that. I'd never done, I love doing the music part of it, of DJing, but I didn't know if I could talk, like if I would have the personality, if I would know when to shut up, And so I did conversations with Doug for, I think, like 2 or 3 years. And believe me, Doug let me know when to shut up. There was like no question about it. But we had a good time. We did like a lot of live broadcasts, great dinners. We had fun. We really did. And I believe he's still on the air going very strong. He's a strong guy. He really is. He's very committed to his business. He's a raconteur, and he delves into the debauchery a bit. So that was kind of the head of that scene. And then I got hired at DST to do middays, which was great because, that was a very creative time. It was the 90s, and, Woodstock 94 was coming, and all this great stuff. Gary was really full fledged into the whole radio biz, 110% of energy into the music, new music, the whole bit. I absolutely loved it. We broke everybody, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, everybody. It was great. I worked with Nick Harcourt, who went on to LA to do a whole bunch of stuff. He's still doing things. And I worked with lots of great people, Jimmy Buff, Dave Leonard, Gene Atwood, just so many, Carter Dowd, Dave Dowd, so many people. It's was just an incredible time of getting to understand the whole promotional aspect of the record labels and their gifting the fun part of radio, and getting airplay for all these different bands and having them come in. And I absolutely loved that part of radio. It was really fun, and WDST made it tons of fun, put so much energy into radio and promotions. And we did live lunch, and we'd get all these great bands coming in, from Cracker to most of the band, just really one person after the next. And then I got Afternoon Drive, which actually one of the first women in the Hudson Valley, I think the first woman to have Afternoon Drive during a time when, all the sociological studies of women determine that men don't really like to hear women talk more than 15 minutes. Like they can't handle it. It hurts. Like it hurts their soul. So they would never put a woman on the air for, a whole shift. But that kind of changed up a bit. And that was kind of cool. And then I met Wolf, and how I met Bob, and what would change the entire fate or my lane in this industry was going to do a benefit for the Humane Society. And Wolf was there, and we talked, and he had just given notice at PDH, and we talked about Albany and my knowledge of Lake George and Saratoga Springs and some of the places I used to like to visit. And he asked for a CD demo, and I gave him one, and got a call weeks later to maybe do weekends at Pix 106 in Albany. And I actually took it. And then I decided, I already have a full-time job here in Woodstock, and I have 3 young sons, all in school. I really can't quit my job, my health insurance, to go up to Albany for a part-time weekend gig. So I just remember telling the station that, yes, I would love, love, love to work at Pix, but it would have to be a full-time job, and preferably mornings, because in radio, mornings was always the gig to get. Like, if you wanted to make money, if you wanted to have like the most incredible adventure, you wanted a morning show. And so that's what I was shooting for. Once I knew what to shoot for, that was it. And then it just kind of happened. It all happened very, very quickly. And at the time, I was actually teaching at SUNY New Paltz Radio and doing afternoons at WDST. My life was incredibly busy and incredibly full. And I had to actually drive up from Saugerties to Latham to audition for the Waking Up with the Wolf show 3 days a week, while teaching 2 days a week and doing afternoons at WDST. The DST thing kind of fell to the wayside. They decided to move in a different direction once they knew I was going to Albany. But I will always love that station. It's a very cool, classic, legendary station, and I was excited to actually go on in March and just do a music show. I love Jimmy. He knows the deal. When you love radio, I mean, it's a weird passion. Like, you don't want to love it so much, but because you have to let go, because the way the business is now, it's a bit, I don't want to say degraded, but it's a bit skewed down. There isn't the revenue for it. It's not a growth industry. There's streaming. Everybody's got a podcast. Like everyone's doing something. There's so much audio. There's so many movies. There's Netflix. There's, Roku. There's everything. It's very, very, very hard to compete. But that's how I got into it. And now I'm just kind of figuring out with all the relationships I've built, all the friends that I have, and just all the cool stories I get to tell. Like I remember when we talked to David Bowie at PIX. Oh my God, I was so excited. I love Bowie. And he was going around the room asking everybody what their favorite song was. And I don't know why, do not know why, but I said All the Young Dudes. And that was a song he had written for Mott the Hoople. And I was just so embarrassed. I don't know if I'll ever really be able to heal from that experience. It was most traumatic because when you look up to somebody for so many years, and Bowie was like so androgynous that he was like he was an icon that made himself into more of an icon, and then of course he married Iman, so he just became even bigger. But you gotta love Bowie. Anyway, I do have tons of stories to tell you about. Some of them suck, some of them are good. If you want to know more, this was just one question on Facebook. A couple of people asked the same thing. How'd I get into radio? And that is my story. And it might change over time. I don't know. But so far, that's what I got. See ya.